Hey, you already know what time it is. What's good, family? You are now rocking with the best. It is Bleav in Cowboys, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. You see me, Parrish. The man right next to me is the legend in the flesh, Jesse Holley. It is the offseason, baby. Things a little bit hot, ain't they?
Both literally and figuratively around around here, man. You know, it's I should say things are a bit dry. You know, and also right. Things get a little bit dry around here. You want to know who is really good at what they do in radio and in podcasting and content creation, especially if they're covering the National Football League. Show me what they do in June and July. When the OTAs is over and the minicamp is over, and you got that break where the NBA Finals is off, the NFL ain't got nothing going on. Major League is in the dog days of heaven. I mean, dog days of summer. You got some of the World Cup, but for the local stuff, boy, you got no more NHL. You got to be good at what you do to be in the months of June and July.
Yeah, no question about it. Everything you say, I co-sign on that 1,000%. If you notice, Jesse Holley's in a different location. We'll pull back the curtain just a little bit, not to share too much information, but he had the man in there working on his AC today, because if you live in Texas, your AC gotta be right.
It gotta be right. Listen, I called him what's today? Wednesday. I called him Monday evening. I came in the house. I was like, ooh, it's toasty. This ain't working how it's supposed to be working. I'm like, man, can you get here tomorrow? He's like, I'm tied up all day Tuesday. I was like, what's the first availability you have on Wednesday? Because this here Texas, and you can't fool around. I could get blankets. I'm from the old school. In the wintertime, if it get too cold, I'll turn the oven on and open the oven door. Like I'm from that era. You know what I'm saying? But ain't no defeat in the Texas heat when your AC ain't working. So you asked me last week something I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that I am able to afford the AC man coming in here and fixing the AC. And so now it's beginning to cool off in here just right, so the temperatures will be nice and frosty in about 30, 40 minutes.
Hey, man, I tell people all the time, the best invention ever. Argue with your mama. Air condition is the best invention ever. I don't care what you want to say. Give me AC all day.
Yeah. Someone asked me the other day, they said what's worse, a Jersey, up north winters or Texas summers? It was a tough one, but I hate the cold. I hate the cold. I hate the cold.
But what you said a minute ago, you can put on a blanket. You can do something about being cold.
Yeah. This heat different. This heat here in Texas is relentless.
I tell everybody I would rather shiver than sizzle. It's that simple. Hey, but let's get this going. Let's focus. This Bleav in Cowboys, again, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Training camp is on the horizon. OTAs were just completed. Before we dive into the whole training camp schedule, OTAs were complete. We saw a lot of different things going on, and you get a little taste. You don't get a whole bunch during OTAs, but you get a little taste. You got a couple of battles going on for that left tackle position. You got a certain wide receiver, GP3, showing up. Tell me, Encompass, what were the top one or two things that you were able to capture from the OTAs that were just completed?
Having George there was definitely something that, a lot of people had questioned about whether or not he would have, wouldn't have. We talked about it, ad nauseum here on our show. So having him there was pretty cool to have, GPD. He didn't do much anything. It was scheduled for 3 days. They only did 2 days. They had mandatory meetings that they had to have on the third day, and then they got up out of there. But the biggest thing, of course, which all the focus is on the defensive side. And it was the communication. It was the communication. I saw that the first time I went out there, and you just saw the attention to detail. You saw it was being echoed all throughout the team. The coaches were doing it. I'll say this. I'll say one thing that I noticed, and this is just and I don't know Christian Parker personally. I'll have my chance to meet him and talk to him, and as my grandmother used to say, look in the white of his eyes at training camp. I just know from what I hear and how I watch. But the thing that I noticed about that, remember last year when they would go into practices, they would do all that funny, silly stuff. All the coaches be running, guys be running through the line and all that. CP takes no part in that. Christian Parker takes no parts in all that goofy, let's, bring the fake energy, all that kind of stuff. Nah. How Shannon Sharp go? Christian Parker's like, did we come to practice or did we come to play? Like, I don't like, he's like, he didn't say this, but like his demeanor in it, like, y'all can come and do all, if you need to have fake enthusiasm to come do what you do here, then you're not the guy for me. And I don't think that's him taking a shot at Brian Schottenheimer, who's kind of the guy behind it all, but he's just like, if you got to get excited to come out here and play football for a living, then go do something else. Go in this heat in Texas, go be an Amazon driver and you'll find enthusiasm to come out here and play football. So I noticed that Christian Parker's like, I'm not doing all that. We ain't all that jumping around and hooting and hollering. Line up, let's get stretched, let's go to work. But the communication was evident throughout. Watching the individual drills, making sure guys repeated it, they didn't do it right. And it wasn't just the Caleb Downs of the world or the Malik Hookers of the world. If you had a Cowboy uniform and you were playing defense, everything was about attention to detail. Everything was about getting it done right, over communicating. They had a clip that came out a couple days ago, and you hear him talking to the players. Hey guys, over communicating. Like, say it again and again and again. And I think that's critical to do nowadays, because what you work to make it a habit becomes natural in the game. If I'm in the game and I'm not an over communicator, and now my shoulder hurt, I'm tired. They just ran 9 plays, so now I'm sucking wind. Then I'm not going to communicate. It's just not going to be who I am, right? Like Jimmy Johnson said a long time ago, fatigue makes cowards of us all.
Cowards of us all, right?
So like, trust me, we've all been in situations where you fall back on what's normal to you. And so when you get in that tired situation, if communication isn't what you do, it's not a part of your natural being. It's not been trained into you, ingrained into you. And the moment you need it the most, you don't go and do it. And so, like, that's what he's trying to, to process into and have these players possess is, if we don't do nothing else, you gonna communicate. Everybody. Like, just because the green dot is the one calling the play, you echo it, you echo it, you echo it, you echo it. Say it again. Say it a third time. Say it a fourth time. Say it to the point where people get tired of hearing you say it. Because that then it assures me in a game that everyone is getting the call initially, the checks after the call is being made. They're getting the pass off when someone's come through a zone and you passing them off. Like, all of that stuff becomes a part of who you are, your DNA, your makeup, so that when we get in the game, it isn't something that's foreign to you. And I'm saying communicate. And you're like, dog, I'm tired. I just had to chase around Lamar Jackson, you know what I'm saying, for the last 2 quarters. I'm winded. It's a part of who you are. So that's, if I had any takeaway from what I saw in my time at minicamp and at these practices, it's been on the defensive side. And you really can't tell all about what things are going on till the pads come on. Their communication will be better. The communication will be better.
I agree. I obviously don't have the same amount of access that you have, but one thing that I know that I've noticed about Christian Parker, he is authentic to himself, and he is going to tell you how he feels, and he's going to talk that cash, you know what. Mm-hmm. And I love that he's brought that to the table. Shotty talked about that when he spoke to the media. He's not used to, well, at least in this rendition, Matt Eberflus wasn't out there talking that cash, you know what, to Dak and CD and those guys. But Christian Parker.
Okay, so let's have that conversation.
Let's do it.
Let's have the conversation. Because, and this is not me putting on my Superman cape for Matt Eberflus. Because that has been a narrative, right? That has been a narrative, right? Because they came out and they're like, oh, Christian Parker, he's talking trash to the defense, he's talking trash to the players. They're having that competition, right?
Right.
I've known you for a little while, and you're of the more reserved type. You're a more reserved type of dude. I've never seen you angry, right? But you come off as more of the reserved type. You're not one that's going to be screaming, hooting, hollering. And so I just thought when people had the comparison to the two, not saying that Christian Parker is not competitive, not saying that Matt Eberflus is not competitive. We all do things differently in competitive nature. Like, I was around what people may deem Wade Phillips, one of the best defensive coordinators in the league, in NFL history. He comes from that pedigree, the father, son of bum. So we all would say you wouldn't argue the fact that you would say if you were doing a list of top defensive coordinators in NFL history that Wade Phillips wasn't in that top 10, maybe in that top 5, right? Wade Phillips was never a guy who was going to talk trash to the offense. This wasn't who he is. He was in fact a soft-spoken dude. Oh my gosh, he always had that high-pitched voice. Wade didn't yell like that. Wade wasn't a guy who was, screaming. Now, when I got to the Cowboys, we had Rob Ryan was there, brother of Rex Ryan, right? Again, another guy who comes from the lineage of Ryans in the National Football League. Now, Rob Ryan is going to MF you, cuss you, call you sorry, tell you a bum, tell you that your mother's a bum, tell you that your mother and father was a bum, and all that other kind of stuff. He was screaming obscenities at Jason Garrett, who was the offensive coordinator, in practice. We looking around like, do something, stand up for yourself. But I say all that to say, two things can be true. You don't have to talk cash money stuff for it to be competitive, right? So just because that's what Christian Parker is doing, again, like you said, he's authentic to himself. That's who he is. That's how he gets it done. But again, I've been around loud talking dudes who talk that talk and who gonna talk that mess, and the results didn't show up. I've been around Wade Phillips who didn't talk that talk and had one of the best defenses. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
So that was my only thing when people were talking about that, because that's not a real Parrish narrative. That's a narrative that a lot of people have been bringing up because they're like, oh yeah, he's talking to them. I'm just like, I watched D'Angelo Hall talk trash to DeAndre Hopkins, and DeAndre Hopkins routes him up, and he tears his ACL. You know what I'm saying? I've watched Josh Norman talk trash and get routed up. You know what I'm saying? Then I watched Nnamdi Asomugha not say a word. I watched Champ Bailey not say a word and would lock you down to where your mother's like, that's my son out there. You know what I'm saying? So, two things can be very, very true in how you go out there and compete each and every week.
No question. Prime never said a word either. That's one thing I always respected about Prime. Obviously, I was not out there on the field, but Prime said he never talked trash to his opponent. He always respected his opponent. So there's different ways to skin a cat. However, I will say, seeing where the Cowboys are, especially the defense, I welcome someone like Christian Parker, who's going to come in and have the scheme, have the level of communication, have the skins on the wall to say, okay, I've been there and done this. I'm a champion. And also I'm going to talk that cash shit and we're going to be better. So, it's a different approach. I respect it. And I'll just go ahead and throw in for our viewers and listeners. Thank you for listening, liking, and subscribing. I recently had a chance to meet Christian Parker at the World Cup. Not anything set up, just casually in passing, exiting after we watched Messi set the record for the most goals in World Cup history. He saw me, I saw him. We gave each other the look. We dapped up. I said, I respect what you're doing. Keep doing it. You are a future head coach in the making. We had a good exchange. And anyway, I say all that to say that I am really, and I've been high on him since he's been hired. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he's doing. But what you're talking about as far as that level of communication, that to me is just a significant improvement from what we saw just one season ago. And we're not even in training camp yet.
No, you're absolutely right. And one little also nugget that I will add into that from the communication standpoint when it comes to Christian Parker, if you just fell off, a spaceship and landed here and you didn't know that his history, you hear he's 34 years old, right? So you already know that the youthfulness in that. But one of the things that Christian Parker has done to better help the communication is he shortened the words. Right. So when I heard that, I said, you know what? As part of the communication, I said, you know what? It tracks. It tracks because he's 34 years old. Christian Parker has grown up in, I text my nieces and nephews and I'm like, they'll say stuff to me and I'll be like, hey baby, you got to help Uncle Jess out. I don't know what that means.
Right.
Because they short everything. All the abbreviation, they'll hit you with the, CIBIDIC. I'll be like, hey, Stink, I don't know what that means. Like, you help Uncle Jesse out. She'd be like, oh, that just means to start the time now, I'll be there in 20 minutes. I was like, just say that to me, please. I can't break down. Just tell me. I'm like, I know ASAP. You know what I'm saying? I know,
right.
My grandma used to say PDQ pretty damn quick. I said, I know certain things. I'm
right.
like, but y'all, the youth, the younger people have shortened everything. And talking about the mental part of where he comes from mentally, his education wise and understanding what I'm now dealing with and his youth is how can I better communicate with the people that I'm now coaching in a way, because I come from the era of the John Gruden era, right? Where the play is 20 miles long, right? The play is 20 miles long and it gives all the detail in it, but that's where we come from. These young kids are like, no, they 60 seconds. They want to watch clips in 60 seconds. They want to watch shows in 20 minutes. They don't, all this long verbiage is not good for them. So he said, well, if it's not working for them, let's shorten it. So a part of his communication is he shortened the calls. So the calls in itself are shorter, a couple words, a phrase, or something like that gives them the look. So also in the moments where I'm talking about where you just so happen to be on a 9-play drive, the offense is rolling. You sucking wind, it's a back and forth game, you tired, it's the third quarter. Well, what I don't want to have to do is send you in a play that's 20 New York blocks long, and now you are 11 personnel, right, and everybody like, wait, what? And now that offense is already on the field. They lining up. And now the communication is off, and now somebody running butt naked wide open because the green dot was huffing and puffing, and we couldn't get the word in, and we couldn't check it. So he's just like, short call, short check, go play football.
Right.
And I thought that was really, 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 just genius by him. But it also just shows, he's taking his level of youthfulness, matching it with their level of youthfulness, and saying, our job is to get the play called in and get it run correctly. And if we can do that, if I can communicate that to you quicker and you communicate it to everybody else quicker, guess what? You can get lined up. Once you lined up, now you see the offense comes out. I see what formation they're in. I'm able to recognize it. I'm able to communicate it, over-communicate it to everyone out there. Now, when they do a motion or shift or whatever, we check the check. It's a short check. Everyone gets it. Everyone echoes it. We play fast.
Right. So, we're not having to go out there like east, right, slot, stack, run past 3, jet chip, or, 2 wide jet, shallow cross, wide, like not having to go through all that terminology.
No,
just simplify.
He has shortened it up. And so that seems to be something that the young people on his roster are taking a liking to.
Nah, you love to see that, the simplification. And as you mentioned it, generations are different, comes from a younger generation, but it is all relatable because he's not that far from the age of a lot of the players on the roster.
34 years old.
Yeah, man.
He's 34 years old. I mean, he and Dak are the same age.
Right. Bleav in Cowboys, Parrish, Jesse Holley, delivered to you by FanDuel. The training camp schedule is out, and we appreciate you all for listening, liking, and subscribing, just giving you a quick rundown on everything that's about to happen in the next couple of weeks. We're about a little under a month away from the beginning of training camp. It starts at the end of July, and everybody will be traveling to the West Coast, the best coast, Los Angeles, a little bit outside of LA, actually. And, looking at the schedule, of course, things start with the open practice, and then there are a lot of fancy bells and whistles and nights that are put on by Jerry Jones and the whole Jones family and the Cowboys organization. So looking at the training camp schedule, kicks off Wednesday, July 29th. Are there any specific dates that you've, noticed as you've looked over the training camp schedule that stand out?
Yep. 8-11.
First scrimmage.
11.
Versus
this is going to tell me a lot.
Yes, it is.
And for those of you who have not seen the schedule or don't know what I'm referencing, 8-11 is the date. August 11th, the Cowboys will travel just down the road to the training camp of the LA Rams. And over the last couple of years, the Cowboys, while they're on the West Coast, they usually have inter-squad practices / controlled scrimmages. They've had it with the Rams. They've had it even back when I was playing. The Chargers, we've done it. With the Raiders, we've done it. You kind of play some West Coast games because you're already on that coast, so you're not doing much traveling, throughout there. But over the last couple of years, watching the Cowboys, and this is even dating back to when Aaron Donald. I remember watching Aaron Donald and shoot, I just drew a blank. The guard just retired. Not Travis. The right guard.
77, Whitworth.
No. The Cowboys right guard.
Oh, Cowboys. Zach Martin.
Zach Martin. Thank you, Jesus. Zach Martin. Watching Aaron Donald and Zach Martin go to work. Okay? Go to work. And you're talking about good on good. Aaron win one. Zach will win one. Zach will win one. Aaron will win one. And I mean, it was just watching two future Hall of Famers, just two Titans, that's what you want. But over the last couple of years, you watch those practices, and the Rams have kind of really dominated the Cowboys up front. Overall, Tyler Smith has held his own on a lot of those situations, but overall, they would, with Verse and with Young and a lot of guys they had up front over there on that defensive front. And so seeing that now Verse is out, Myles Garrett is in. And so now you have that. I want to see what that looks like. You got Trent McDuffie on the outside. I know people are going to say, well, we saw what Trent McDuffie did with CeeDee Lamb last year when they played. I said, that's fine. And Watson and all that. But you get to see good on good. And that to me is a litmus test and an indicator of kind of like, all right, where you at? That's going to be one of the first. And I pray that Tyler Guyton doesn't have a groin or a hammy or the ankle. And it's not because I'm looking for him to be punished by Myles Garrett, but I'm looking for him to where you at? Give us an understanding of where you're at, because this is the type of stuff that you're going to have. In order to get to the Super Bowl, you're going to have to beat the Rams. At some point in time, you're probably going to have to run, unless someone does it for you in the playoffs. The way that the Rams are set up, you're going to have to beat them. And this is no better way to kind of get a little bit of a leg up, because it's all competitive. And we can sit here and say, it's just practice. But I want you to lead this practice to know the next time you see me what I did to you. And vice versa. They want to do the same thing. They want you to know that when we leave from here, when you got to come see us again, just know you're going to harken back into how I put belt to tail on you at training camp. So 8/11 is going to be, that Tuesday is going to be one of those practices that I cannot wait to see. I just can't. I'm looking forward to that, because that's going to tell me a lot. It's going to tell me about this defense. It's going to tell me about the defense because Matt Stafford and Puka and Devontae and all those guys. We're going to see. We're going to see what you are, Kobe Durant. We're going to see what you are, Seatbelt, Savone Rebel, and hopefully by that time that you got Bland back. So I'm going to see Caleb Downs. Welcome to the National Football League. That's Matthew Stafford, future Hall of Famer. He can throw that pill. That's Devontae Adams. He got the best release, one of the best release games at the line of scrimmage. You know what I'm saying? Hey, here's Tyler Higbee, tight end. He can go, he can move. So, hey, there's Puka Nacua. He's about to be up there with JSN when he's about to get his new contract. It's going to be $42 million. So all these guys get a chance to go out there and see, oh, by the way, defense, oh, by the way, Christian Parker, that dude on the sideline over there is Sean McVay. He's highly regarded as the best offensive mind in the National Football League right now. Now you get to test your skills up against his skills, your calls up against his calls, your dogs versus his dogs. Take him off the leash and let him go at it. So I'm looking forward to that in particular when it comes to training camp.
Indeed, we're looking forward to it all. You see everyone joining us visually. We have the training camp schedule up on the screen. You can see that date, August 11th. That's the scrimmage versus the Rams, which leads up to the preseason game versus Seattle, going up to Seattle. And, looking at the calendar, as I mentioned, there's a lot of things on there. Obviously, we're focused on football, but then you have the opening ceremony and fan night and all these extra things. But ultimately, we're talking about football here. And then you have the Saints coming in the scrimmage a week later, which is going to be a little bit different. Of course, you're going to get your temperature check when you're going up against the Rams. That is obviously a Super Bowl favorite. But the next week against the scrimmage against the Saints, what do you expect to see in that situation? A little bit of a different franchise in a different position.
Yeah, I think whatever wrongs that you may have found in that a week ago scrimmage against the Rams, I think you're working on them against the Saints. The Saints are a unit led by Kellen Moore, who was an offensive coordinator here for the Cowboys, former quarterback here for the Cowboys. They're trying to find their way, and again, they're looking at the Cowboys and saying to themselves, because again, these are all NFC teams that you're going to, if the Saints find it to get it together, you're going to have to see the Saints at some point in time, maybe in the playoffs in the future. So the Saints want to put themselves in a position to go, where do we stack up, right? Defensively, if you're telling me that the Cowboys historically, under the leadership of Dak Prescott, has been a top 10 offense, then where are we at? They just signed back Cam Jordan, so he's the vet on that side of the ball. I want to see where we're at defensively when we're going up against CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens and Javonte and all the tight ends, Dak Prescott. Where are we at defensively? And then offensively, you want to see what your young quarterback has. He'll be going into Tyler Shuck will be going into year 2, and so you'll just see a lot of. I think that scrimmage you'll see two teams still trying to figure out what their identity is, right? I think more so the Rams. Excuse my French, it's kind of like, let's drop our nuts today a little bit. And I think the Saints are more so like, all right, let's get back to finding out what we do. There's going to be a lot on the line. Let me take that back. There's not going to be a lot on the line. There's going to be a lot of internal egos on the line against the Rams.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a lot of that. When you go up against, again, they're talking about they have them looking right now as the early on favorite to be the Super Bowl champions. So it's going to be a lot of that. Eagles, testosterone will be at an all-time high against the Rams. It'll come back down. You'll compete and you'll be ready to go out there, but it ain't going to be the same against the Saints. That ain't going to be the same.
Right. Now, looking forward to seeing which Cowboys show up when you have the Rams. That's going to be, I think I'm going to have to book my ticket to go and show up to be there in that portion of August.
Also wrote what I want, and maybe I don't get a chance to dictate what I want and what I get it, but we're talking about changing cultures. Yes, that has been the narrative and the conversation that's been around Brian Schottenheimer with the way that they hired this year, Christian Parker. We're changing the narrative, we're changing the culture, we're doing all those different things. But that's just not a coaching thing. You feel what I'm saying? That's a player thing too. And I, as a former player, I put a lot of onus on players dictating the culture pace. I also believe culture comes from winning at everything that you do. You want to build a good culture? Win. Magically, the teams who win all of a sudden have the great cultures, right? The Patriot way is not the Patriot way if they're not hoisting Lombards. I'm sorry, right? Because you have the Browns way. There's a Browns way. There's a Browns way. Yeah, exactly. And they're not winning. So, like, you win, your culture is set. But from the player's perspective, bro, I want dudes to be like, I'm not missing practice today. I want Tyler Guyton to be like, nah, Nate Thomas, I want all the reps against Myles Garrett. I want, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want Caleb Downs like, nah, I'm coach. No, don't put me in the slot. Devontae Adams is outside. Puka's outside. Let me go run outside with them. I want Barham and I want Overshown. Like, nah, put me in the drills. I don't want you saying, well, coach said he looked at the numbers on my calibrated thing and the numbers said, my GPS said that I'm over the limit, so I got to sit this one out. Nah, no. I want to go fire for fire with the dude that y'all say the best. Like, that's what I want. Because that's what I believe gets the best out of you. You talk about, we want to get back to what those 90 days was. Those dudes competed. You wasn't Dusty Smoke back then.
Right.
You ducking smoke? Yo, what hurt? The GPS monitor said what? Man, that Jerry Rice over there. That's whoever over there. No, man, line up. Let's go.
Yep.
That's what I want to see. I want to see a level of players saying, "Who Caleb Dowd when he gets up, say, I don't know who this guy I'm going up against." No. When is Devontae lining up? When is Puka lining up? No, don't give me the other rookie. Thanks, coach, but no thanks. Give me Higbee. Give me those guys who are going to be playing on Sunday. Don't give me the guy because he's the next one in line. I don't want the next in line. If I'm up and that happens, I'm going, hey, Josh Butler, you got this guy. Who next? Oh, behind him and Devontae? Yeah, Josh Butler, you guard him. I got Devontae. That's what I want. I want that level of I want that. I want that from this team. That'll also show me, oh, there's a shift in the culture. And I want coaches to push that. I want coaches to be like, yo, give me Devontae. Give me the rubber band. That's what I want. I want that level of competition. If you're trying to change the narrative, if you're not going to the playoffs in the last 2 years, this is how you do it. You compete.
Dude, I used to love in practice when coaches would call out players specifically, because the thing about coaches is they know all the personnel, but then they also know everything that's going on as far as like backstories and who's beefing or whoever. So coaches know what's going on. So when they call out such and such, I used to love that, because there might be two dudes on the team that, they might be going after the same chick or whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is, you want to see them go up because it's going to bring out the best in both of them.
Yeah, and that's what I want to see, man. At these practices, the Saints the same way. Whoever the best is on the Saints, I want our best going up against them. Whoever the best is on the Rams, I want those guys going against them. And then ultimately, when we get to training camp, one thing that boiled my blood last year, and this has been something that the Cowboys have done for the last couple of years, not just under Mike McCarthy, under Jason Garrett. You got 3 preseason games. Now, am I saying that Dak needs to play all these preseason games? I think Dak is pretty established. But there's maybe 3 guys, maybe 4 that I would be comfortable with that on preseason games get to wear hats. Quinnen, Dak, CD, George. Everyone else got to play. Defensively, everyone else needs to get your 10,000 hours in. It's a new defense. I'm taking Christian Parker. I'm taking veterans from another place. I'm taking rookies. I'm taking guys who've been here last year. I'm taking 4 different quadrants that I'm trying to bring together, and I'm trying to get to master, because you want to master defense, right? I want to master this defense. Well, there's not enough time in the day. Literally, you only get a certain amount you get 2 hours on a practice field. By league rule, CBA, it's in the CBA, 2 hours. You don't get full pads. You get 11 padded practices in training camp. That's it, 11. You get 14 padded practices for the entire season. So you don't have many opportunities to throw and have live bullets. So how do I get the communication? How do I know it's there? How do I know it's sharp? Right? Like, it's one thing, I can control practice, and I can say, all right, give me this look with that look. But what happens in the game when you don't get to control it? Then what happens? When there's consequences for you missing the coverage or the communication not being there. I just think if you're trying to truly change the way that this thing has been done over the last 2 years and not make it 3 years in a row where you don't make the playoffs, I think changing everything about how you do this. Nothing against Lil Tank Tank, but Kevontae Turpin shouldn't be on the sideline with a hat on at any point in time during the preseason. At any time, play. What have you done? Play. You're not a good enough receiver not to go and play. I've seen your route tree. Go get the routes. I ain't saying you got to play all game, but go learn how to run routes, because you ain't getting many of them in practice. You're not. Right. All the other guys, you're not getting many of them in practice, so go and play. That's another thing that I want to see during this training camp / preseason is guys got to play, man. Tell the guy you should never have a hat on the sideline during the preseason. You're like you should play 2 quarters. You should play at least 2 quarters every game. That's so. If we're changing the narrative and we're changing the culture, there's certain things that I need to see in this training camp and this preseason that I haven't seen in the past.
Indeed. Bleav in Cowboys, Parrish, Jesse Holley, looking into the crystal ball going into the season. Obviously, we know that GP3 is a high priority. We don't know if he's going to actually get a deal or he's going to actually play on the franchise tag. That's not a conversation for today. However, that's the new kid on the block. He came in and did his thing last season, surprised everybody. Is this the season that CeeDee Lamb, number 88 in your program, needs to, for lack of better terms, reintroduce himself and let everybody know that he is still him?
There's been talk. I mean, you look throughout the season and, you and I had the debate on here, who's won, right? Is it 1-1? Is it 1-2? Is it 1A, 1B? Who's the A? Who's the B, right? Like that conversation has been happening all throughout the year. And I'll say this offensively, as long as Dak Prescott is healthy, both of these guys, the floor is 1,000 yards. They're going to get 1,000 yards. I mean, CeeDee missed 4 or 5 games last year and he had just under 1,100 yards. So that's going to give you 3,000, 4,000 yards passing a season. So, however you want to chop it up, those guys, the count starts at 1,000. But we live in a what have you done for me lately society. We live on, if you did it at 12, I'm looking for something to be done again at 1. It just happens that way. And we had to I know I was reminding people all season long. They're like, GP need to get more reps and da-da-da. And I'm like, did we forget the last 5 seasons that CeeDee Lamb had put on it? CeeDee Lamb had a 1,700-yard season. CeeDee Lamb has a 1,400-yard season. CeeDee Lamb has been, all pro. Like, he's had over 100 catches. I'm like, people mysteriously forgot all of that because the new kid on the block was here. The new cute girl was walking around and it was like, oh no, but George this, George that, George. And I was like, that's interesting. And even missing, 4 games, 5, whatever it was, due to the ankle injury, because I don't know, for whatever crazy reason, Brian Schottenheimer had him playing running back and taking handoffs. Don't know why that was happening. I don't know why that whatever portion of the Brian Schottenheimer, whatever portion of the playbook that you have CeeDee Lamb taking handoffs, rip it out, burn it. Don't bring that back in the playbook for this year. But having I'm a huge CeeDee Lamb fan. I think CeeDee Lamb is, when we're talking about receivers in the league, we don't talk about George as top 10. We never talk about George being top 10. Never, ever. He might got a little heat, like little spotlight this year. We never talk about him being there. CeeDee was always in the conversation of top 5, 6 in the league since he got into the league. And I still think he's in that conversation. I know that there is, I still hold Jamar Chase in very, very high regard, right? But, you got JSN, you got Puka, you still got, you got Jetta out there, right? Like, you got all those guys out there. CeeDee's in that conversation. He ain't not in that conversation to me. Like, he's in that conversation for sure. And but I do think that this is one of those years, and these two guys get along. Like CeeDee and George Pickens get along. Like they are cool.
And let's say I don't even know if get along is the right term, because these dudes are like they call each other twin. Like they like right. That. They like Martin and Will. They bad boys. They're right. They bad boys. Right. Like they locked in like that. So you're absolutely right. Like they do more than just get along. Like they are like Martin and Will. But I do think for CeeDee, this needs to be one of those years that was like, and it's not no shade. This is Jesse talking. This is not CeeDee talking. There's no shade to George Pickens, but okay. Let me reintroduce myself. Let me pull the Kevin Durant out of there. Like, I'm still Kevin Durant. You know who I am. Y'all know who I am, right? So I do think that he needs to have a resurgence. He needs to have a reintroduction to let folks know. And if he plays a full season, because he was on pace with his numbers. If you look at it, he was on pace last year to do just over 1,300 yards had he not gotten hurt. He had more 100-yard games than George Pickens did last year.
But, you know, he missed the 4 or 5 games and still had over, I think he had like 1077. So just under 1,100 yards. George had 14. I mean, CD to me is still CD. And to those who don't have the eye to know and to watch CD, to appreciate the position and what he does and how he does it, I know that I'm at an advantage and put at a disadvantage because they just don't see what I see and how the position is played. CD's still him, and what he does, George doesn't do, not at all. Like there's more of what CD can do, more of what George does than George doing what CD does. You know, but what George does really, really well, he does really, really, really well. So, but to remind folks, I do think CD needs to have one of those years where he's like, okay, yeah, that's 1,400 yards, that's 9, 10 touchdowns. I am who I am. And that doesn't mean that George had to take a back seat because George can still be like, oh, yeah, I had 12, I had 1,300 yards. I'm still, oh, by the way, I'm next up. I put in another 1,300 yard season. So pay me. You know, even though CD may have more yards, I'm next. And, you know, the way the contracts are going, George is going to make more money with whoever George signs with, because he's going to make more money than CD because 35 is not the high no more. It's the floor, because London and Watson and the other guys, I'm hearing that Zay Flowers may be getting a deal soon, you know, around $35 million a year too. And I'm like, if Zay Flowers is getting 35, don't say it to Zay, but if Zay getting 35,
right,
David Mulugeta going to be like, you see what Baltimore gave Zay 30? Oh, no. So, yeah. But I look forward to CeeDee Lamb coming in camp. And again, no, it's not any shade or anything towards George. It's more so of, oh, y'all, you know, I probably shouldn't say his name because he's in jail for some bad things. But like, oh, y'all must have forgot. You know, what was that, a mystical song? Like, y'all must have forgot. No, that was Roy Jones Jr. That's Roy Jones. I'm sorry. Yeah. It sounds like mystical. We don't want to talk about mystical. We keep mystical out of this. That was a Roy Jones Jr. song. Roy Jones Jr. said, y'all must have forgot. I think that needs to be the theme song for CeeDee Lamb in the 2026-2027 season. Y'all must have forgot.
Yeah, you mixing two songs together, but we're going to leave that where it is. Yeah.
Uncle Jess, man, song start. I'm mixing stuff up. I don't know abbreviations. I don't know all the text code. You know, help Uncle Jess out, man. Help Uncle Jess out, brother. I'm old, man.
Hey, man. Hey, it's all good. Shouts out to the legend that is Roy Jones Jr. and the famous track that was out in our day called Y'all Must Have Forgot. Some of y'all are familiar with it. That was a classic. Hey, man, we appreciate you all for listening, liking, and subscribing. It's Bleav in Cowboys. Hey, it's almost time to get out of here, Jesse. Let the people know something good. Give them a good word.
Yes, sir, man. I want the people to know and always remember, man, pouring from an empty cup only leaves the owner with an empty cup. So make sure that you're filling your cup up. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. And sometimes you got to tell them folks no, because you just don't have much to give. And that's okay. Because when your cup is empty, guess what they're going to go do? They're going to find another cup to pour out into them. So don't leave yourself with an empty cup, man, and take care of yourself each and every day. You possibly can, man. Self-care is not selfish. Always remember that.
Hey, man, he said it best. What he said, love, respect, and salute.